Welcome to Oddball. I'm Charlotte Wilder. That's Amin Hassan. He's back. Amin, did you miss us?
I did not. I was in Puerto Rico. Oh my God. Did I miss you guys? No, I was drinking rum runners with waves crashing on me.
Wow. Sounds amazing. Well, we were here talking about basketball and we're going to keep doing that. It was the NBA Cup. The NBA Cup finally started last night. 8 games. 4 of 8 came down to the final possession. I mean, I was so locked in. There were 2 big upsets. Unfortunately, as a Celtics fan, the Hawks beat the Celtics 117-116, and the Portland Trailblazers beat the Timberwolves 122-108.
I just want to say the NBA season needs to stop drinking, because this thing where the Hawks can lose to the Wizards twice and then go up to Boston and beat the Celtics at Trae Young. I can't fathom.
It's like one of those math problems where it's like the transitive property and you're like, this can't be right. There's no way this is, but we'll hit all of that drama. But I love this. I mean, I loved it when it was called the in-season tournament. I love it when it's called the NBA Emirates Cup. I just get very excited when I see the different colored courts, all done by an artist named Victor Solomon, I learned.
Really?
I just feel like, it's pretty cool. And I feel like fans are caring about it. At least the fan part of me is, Amin.
Oh, good. That was the intended goal, right? Like the intended goal was, hey, if we all treat this like it's important and real, then it will become important and real. And the reality is, that's not for me. It's not for you. It's not for LeBron or Steph Curry or Anthony Edwards or Victor Wembanyama or any of them. You know who it's for? It's for a 13-year-old kid right now who's watching and is enthralled by the colors and all this stuff and sees the celebration, sees LeBron and Anthony Davis raise that trophy last year and says to himself, when I get to the NBA, I'm going to win that thing a bunch of times. That's who it's for. And it starts with us right now. And I think we're doing it. We're doing it.
Totally. We do have to talk about Klay Thompson returning to Golden State Warriors. He received probably the warmest welcome possible. Fans were wearing hats that said Captain Klay.
What kind of hats? What kind of hats?
They were captain's hats. They were like the little the sailor hats.
Yeah, look at that.
And you have the employees all waving them at him. It was so cute. It felt to me, a little bit like when they first announced they were going to do this, I was like, is it Fleet Week in San Francisco? And then I was like, oh no, it's just Klay has a boat.
Captain Klay. Yeah. That's what they call him, Captain Klay. And it's weird because, first of all, not a very untraditional. Usually what teams, when they want to do a kind of a welcome home video or whatever, tribute video, they'll do it in the first time out or they'll do it during the quarter break. The Warriors did the weird thing of like, they did the starting lineup for the Mavericks normal, but then they called out Klay last, and then they played the video right there. So he sat there on the bench and watched it all. I thought it was really cool. It was, I don't get emotional a lot, but I got a little emotional watching that because it was just so pure. There was zero bad blood anywhere in the building. The fans loved him. His teammates loved him. His coaches loved him. The organization loved him. And he loved them back. And it was cool to see everybody be so positive and upbeat. And then the ball tips and they're trying to take each other's heads off. I wouldn't have had it any other way.
No, I was like, is it dusty in here? When they were flash, it was like, thank you, Klay. Thank you, Splash Brother. And I was like, whew, okay, someone's cutting onions. But you're right. Part of why it was so moving is because the game was so intense. It wasn't like this was very real competition. There were a bunch of key performances. Klay led the Mavs in scoring, which could not have been scripted better. 22 points. He was 6 of 12 from 3. He also hit Steph's shimmy at one point, just like, fun little trash talk. And it was a vintage Draymond performance. He had 11 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks.
One big
and
one
was talking
on Gafford
the whole time.
Oh, man, that block he had on Gafford in the fourth quarter and then to turn and stare him down as the fast break is going. You're absolutely right. It's vintage Draymond. It was vintage Warriors. It felt like it was 2016 all over again, where they were just whipping the ball around and you didn't know who had the ball and here comes Steph with a crazy shot over a 7-footer. Yep, nailed it. And meanwhile, Draymond is staring someone down. Everything was great. And by the way, if you're a Warriors fan, it's everything you wanted, right? You wanted Klay to come out and have a great game because you didn't want Klay to stink it up. That's not your lasting memory. Your lasting memory is this dude was a legend, an icon in this organization. You wanted him to have a great game, but you wanted the Warriors to win. And when they did.
And I think it was made a little more special even because Steph outscored the Mavs 12-3 at the end of the game. He just took over. And we've said this with Steph at this level, and a supporting cast that has become very competent. It really does feel like the Warriors are actual title contenders, which you were on this a little bit earlier. I don't think I would have thought this in the offseason.
Everybody was talking that weird ass play-in tournament talk with these guys. And I know it's early. It's only been 10 games or so, but I think this is real, man. And I go back to the whole thing. One of the most underrated part of the Warriors when they're at their greatest, when they're championship great, is that their supporting cast is really good, right? Steph is Steph, and Klay for a lot of that was Klay, and Draymond's always Draymond, right? And Durant when he was there is Durant. But the thing that really, really makes it hard is that you can't say, well, I'll just wait for when their role players to up. Because they don't. Their role players are all high IQ and versatile and know what they're supposed to be doing. And so after they won that last championship, there was a feeling of, let the vets go. We got these young guys that we drafted. They're ready. They weren't ready. And so now what's happened is they went back to their roots. They went out and got solid vets like Melton and Buddy Hield and Kyle Anderson, who didn't play last night. And at the same time, there are young guys that weren't ready a couple of years ago are ready now. Kuminga's a lot better. Moody's a lot better. And then the two guys they had last year as rookies, Trace Jackson-Davis and Brandon Podziemski, they're ready too. But in a smaller role where they're not asked to do so much, this, ladies and gentlemen, is Warriors basketball. And this is why I think, or I thought before the season, this could really be a title contending team.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. That's everything that they have going for them. They're also leading the league in bench productivity, which just backs up your point. I do think, something interesting to me, and I wanted to ask you about, Klay struggled last year, with his shot. It wasn't falling. We saw that he ripped his shirt. There was so much frustration. And why is it now that doesn't seem to be happening with the Mavs, like just from a purely technical, performance perspective?
Well, there's a couple of things. I think let me start with something that may not be as obvious to everybody. When you are a champion 4 times over, when you've been an all-star several times over, a defensive, all defensive team selection, all these things, and then now you're not, but you're still with the same organization, there's still an expectation that I have to be brave for everybody. I got to do this stuff. So maybe kind of some of the things that you're being asked to do don't sit as well. Maybe the people asking you to do things aren't comfortable asking you to do the things they need you to do because there's still a deference, a respect for what this guy's accomplished. You go somewhere else, none of them banners up there were put up by you. So there's a little bit more of I'll do whatever you guys ask me to do because there isn't a fear of a disrespect inadvertent coming either way. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is, this is the difference between being a second option and a third option, right? As a second option behind Steph, there's an expectation. You got to bring it every day. So Klay, as he's deteriorating, can't quite be that option he's been for his entire career. It's it comes and it goes, right? You get to Dallas, now it's like, no, that's Luka and that's Kyrie's job to be there every day. I'm the third guy. I'm the release valve. I'm the unexpected 22 points or whatever. When it's like that, when it's not something that is banked on night by night, it's a lot easier. There's a lot less pressure, and it's easier for him to do what he's got to do.
And I think that's what the Mavs saw. That's what they were counting on. They were like, this will be the thing that can get us over that hump, that can get us back to the finals, that can give us a better chance of winning. This game would have been the perfect storybook ending for Klay had he taken the last shot. But instead, Luka clanked a step back jumper at the buzzer for the second game in a row. Who would you want taking the shot, Luka or Klay?
Well, look, the real option, the real answer is Kyrie Irving. He's shooting 54% from 3. He's got incredible ball handling. He can get to wherever he wants on the floor. He's a good passer, so if he's swallowed up or whatever, he'll make the play. To me, Kyrie Irving should be the closer for them regardless. Last night, it would have been nice to see Klay just because he's having the night he has. But I get why Jason Kidd does what he does by giving the ball to Luka Doncic. Because when you put it in the hands of your best player, it's like punting on 4th down in the NFL. No one's going to question you. No one's going to question you for what, like, why? How could you do that or whatever? Number one. And number two, and this is the part the NFL guys don't have to deal with, is Jason Kidd doesn't have to explain himself to Luka Doncic. Why didn't you go to me? And that's probably bigger than any other reason, even the win. It's more important that Luka Doncic believes in Jason Kidd than it is that Jason Kidd gets a regular season win by going elsewhere.
Yeah. All right. We have to talk about the Celtics and the Warriors, unfortunately. The Celtics made so many mistakes in a game against the Hawks.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. You said Celtics and the Warriors. I don't know. You have a 22
Celtics and
22
Hawks.
flashbacks or something.
Oh my God. Well, it felt like that because the Celtics made so many mistakes against a Hawks team that did not have Trae Young, did not have Bojan Bogdanovic. It was the biggest upset of the season so far. The DraftKings line had closed at Celtics -16. And, you know, these losses are confounding to me because they did the things that had plagued them, you know, for the past 8 years. They gave up 20 offensive rebounds. They turned it over 20 times. Jaylen Brown turned it over 6 times himself. And they botched an inbounds play at the end. Then Jaylen Brown took this jumper where he could have won it and it just didn't. And I felt that in my soul. I haven't felt a Celtics loss like that in a long time.
Since
I was on my couch. True. I was like, why do I care so much about this the NBA Cup? But I guess it's working. And Joe Mazzulla laid the groundwork for this loss. Here's what he said before the game, Amin.
You see it around the world. I think the best way to, in my opinion, make it more impactful is to move it away from the 82-game schedule. So it's not just a regular season game. It's something different. You see the other tournaments around the world, they don't count towards your domestic league, and it's its own league entirety.
Okay, first of all, why? Why do you want that? Second of all, did Mazzulla know they were going to lose to the Hawks without Trae Young? What's going on?
I think there's two things really quick. Number one is the whole point, if you haven't been paying attention, Joe, is to make these regular season games that nobody cared about meaningful. If we took them away and brought them back with regular season games, then they wouldn't be meaningful anymore. That's the whole point. That's what we're doing here. And this is the part where I asked, did Joe not get the memo? Because the memo I got is A, this is to make the regular season more exciting, and B, we better be excited about this thing and wholeheartedly supporting it.
Yeah.
How many times is this guy just going to flaunt whatever crazy opinion he has that goes counter to what we're doing here as a thing, and with that, no repercussions?
Joe Mazzulla is like a little kid who is crying out for boundaries and no one is setting them. So he just keeps going and saying weirder and weirder things. When we come back, more from the opening night of the Emirates NBA Cup. Stick around.
Crazy Joe Mazzulla.
Welcome back to Oddball. I mean, more games to talk about from the Emirates NBA Cup. The Pistons beat the Heat 123-121 in overtime, despite the Tyler heroics. See what we did there? I want to give a real quick recap for those who might not know what happened at the end of this game, because Herro scored to take the lead with 1.8 seconds left, okay? Detroit's inbounds play fools the Heat, and Durant gets an easy lob to retake the lead. Spo, head coach Erik Spoelstra of the Heat, calls a timeout out of frustration, but the problem was that the Heat didn't have a timeout. They were out of timeouts, which is a technical foul. So the Pistons got 2 shots, and they got the ball. Malik Beasley hit 1 of 2 to go up 2, and then Spo thought the Heat would get the ball and tried to set up an inbounds play, but it was an easy inbounds for Detroit while Miami's confused. No one fouled. Game is over. It was bizarre. I mean, I've never seen anything like this from Erik Spoelstra.
This is the best coach of all time. This is why you get giving me. This is pathetic, man. This is your wheelhouse. You guys don't have talent. You don't have scoring. You're not even defending like you used to. The one thing we had is Spo is the execution genius. Spo is like a little computer. Well, what do you have to say for yourself now? You saw, great coach. He probably gonna throw his kids under the bus or something. I'm gonna blame it on like the Pelly or whatever that kid's name is.
Let's see what Spo has to say for himself.
You know, I just made a serious mental error, there at the end. That's on me. I feel horrible about it. There's really no excuse for that. I'm 17 years in. We had talked about it in the huddle. I knew that we didn't have anything. I just got emotional and reactive on that, and I just made a horrendous mistake there at the end. It's a shame. You don't want it to come down to a mental error like that. You just would have liked to seen this go double overtime. Unfortunately, even as a veteran coach, I got in the way of that.
Are you happy, Amin? You just berated this man and he's out there berating himself. That's the saddest press conference I've ever seen in my life.
I'm sorry. I take it all back.
That's what I thought. The best part of this story, though, Amin, was Jalen Rose's reaction. Here was his face as the game ended this way. That's like a frown that you use a filter for on TikTok. You know what I mean? Where you make someone look like they're crying even when they're not. Can you explain for all the young people what was so amazing about this?
This has to be surreal for Jalen Rose in the year 2024 of our Lord. He's sitting at a basketball game. He's taking it in as just a fan. And then he sees something that literally happened to his team 34 years? How long ago was it when they were in the Final Four and they didn't have a timeout? And Chris Webber called the timeout, and Michigan, as a result, got penalized with a technical foul and loss of possession. And I believe North Carolina goes on to win the national championship. And so Jalen Rose was on the court when Chris Webber did that. So now, like I said, fast forward a billion years later, because I was about to say 14 years ago, and then I realized my math was way off. A billion years later, and to see it happen in real life in the NBA. And just like Chris Webber was a Hall of Famer and was a guy that we all knew was going to be a great player and just had a momentary mental error. Same thing here. Spo, we know he's going to be a Hall of Famer. We know he's one of the best coaches ever. But it's like one of those crazy mental lapses that you never want to have your name associated with.
Here's the thing. This is beautiful human error. This is what I love about sports. This is what the robots could never do. The robots could never make the same mistake at the exact time that a guy who was a victim of this mistake was there to witness. As we said, Tyler Herro had a great game, though. Didn't end well, but he had 40 points, 8 assists, and 10 threes, which was a career high. Tyler Herro is someone who, for the past couple seasons, has just constantly been on the trade block. It's been like, Miami is thinking of, Tyler Herro to offer, but there's never been anything like teams haven't gotten enough from the Heat, and the Heat haven't gotten enough in terms of Tyler Herro. Is his value up enough now to get a return that the Heat might want or that another team might want in the form of him?
See, this is what makes it hard to answer these questions kind of in a nebulous cloud, because I think teams have always liked Tyler Herro as a player. It all depends on what you're asking me for in return for Tyler Herro. If you went to, for instance, the Lakers and said, hey, give you Tyler Herro for like Rui Hachimura and like 2 firsts, the Lakers might say yes to that. But you tell them, hey, I want it for LeBron or Anthony Davis. Like, no, I don't. Like, there's no package you could put together with Tyler Herro at the centerpiece to make that happen. And I think that's what kind of the Heat have run into. It's like people like, and this happens all across the NBA, all types of players. We like them. Yeah. I don't like them like them. Like them means I'll do whatever it takes to get them, right? I'll give you everything. Like what we saw when Anthony Davis got traded to the Lakers. They said, literally, take it all. Take Josh Hart, take Lonzo Ball, take Brandon Ingram, a future All-Star, take all of these picks that we still owe somehow, right? That's the kind of player you do that for. Tyler Herro is not the kind of player you do that. You do that like, if it makes sense for me, but like, right. We haven't had a deal that's made sense for another team, I guess.
Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll come back to the trade block. Remember, we had the bus that pulled up and you either got on the bus or you didn't as you were waiting on the block to be traded.
Vague. I have vague memories of that.
All right. Well, anyway, the Knicks spoiled Joel Embiid's debut as a Sixer in the 2024-2025 season. He was not great in this. He had 5 points from the floor. He went 8 for 8 for 3 free throws. He only had 3 rebounds, and he looked pretty out of breath. But should we have expected anything else? I don't know.
Well, on the positive, he hit the over on the assist. So kudos to anyone who had that one. Yeah, dude, this is his first game since August. And by the way,
the Olympics.
Raise your hand if you thought he looked spry and athletic out there. I mean, that looks like someone who was rushed back for whatever purpose.
And he had his knee wrapped up and he left at one point and went back into the locker room.
Yeah. No, I mean, like this, and he's playing against a team that a bunch of tryhards. Let's be honest. The Knicks play unusually high motor, even during NBA Cup games. And Karl Anthony Towns, for whatever reason, has always been someone who like matches up against Embiid and sees himself as a peer. And so there is a level of effort on that regard that I don't know if would have happened if, it was Andre Drummond starting at 5 or whatever. But you just got to kind of wait and see, It's not something that we can jump to right now.
Yeah. Well, the Sixers are 2-7. They have not been this bad to start the season since 2016, 2017. We had talked when you were gone, about potentially, is this team going to get blown up? Are the Bucks going to get blown up midway through the season? And Izzy made a really good case for it, Izzy Gutierrez, when he was on co-hosting. And I was sort of like, yeah, I could definitely see that. But for some reason, seeing Embiid out on the floor, I was like, oh, Daryl Morey is the GM of the Sixers, entirely too stubborn to blow this up before a full season. Like, this is not, if it's a failure, we'll find out in 2025. But there is no way they are going to give up on this, because if they can be healthy to get to the playoffs, and then in the playoffs, Paul George and Embiid, who knows? And that who knows, I think, is strong enough to stop any major moves.
Well, first of all, the only way a move could be triggered is if one of these guys says, "Get me the hell out of here." Then I think. But the other thing is, look, they're 2-8 actually. After last night, that's their 8th loss, so that's 10 games into the season. The equivalent of this in the NFL is we are in the first quarter of Game 3 of 17. So it is criminally early to have any conversation about what it's going to take to blow this up. They haven't even had their full lineup, right? Like, remember, Tyrese Maxey, who's really good and really important to them, is out with a hamstring injury, so he's not in there. This is Embiid's first game, for crying out loud, in months. Yeah, and he can't move. Like, look, I get it if you say, hey, we need the theory is they need to blow it up because everybody's hurt all the time. But dude, they made that decision, like, again, 3 or 4 months ago. They didn't make that decision 2 years ago. So clearly their estimation is that they're not going to be hurt forever. And if that's the case, then there's nothing that could have happened last night that would indicate we have to get rid of everybody or blow this thing up. Yeah. Other than Embiid or Maxey or Paul George walking into Daryl Morey's office and saying, get me the hell out of here.
Yeah, I think Izzy was probably saying that will happen sooner than later, which we shall see. But in terms of the Knicks, Brunson didn't shoot well. He was only 5 for 15, and he didn't hit a single of his 4 3-point attempts, only had 5 assists. But Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby powered them to a win. I mean, I thought that was a good sign. I thought Cat was playing better defense than he has been.
Bravo! Oh, the Knicks beat the team with the guy on one leg and the other guy not even playing. Oh my God! Should we just let me book my hotels for the NBA Finals for the Knicks? Home court advantage, of course, because I mean they're doing the thing where they're beating up against stalwarts like one-legged Embiid and Maxey in civilian clothes. Come on, man! Come on, what are we talking about?
Well, I'm just trying to.
This is, you know what this is like? This is like us congratulating the Celtics for beating the Hawks. Wait, they didn't beat the Hawks. They lost.
All right. I mean, one more upset. Portland upset the Timberwolves. The Blazers caught fire, if you will, to beat the Wolves 122-108. But the big takeaway, I think, was actually the court. It was the only swirly court. I mean,
I can't tell
what's going on.
I can't tell if those are roses or if that's the PDX airport carpet design. But either way, this is a great example of like, hey, now the team's had a year to kind of customize their own court. Because last year it was all mandated from the league. They did it last minute and said, here are the court designs. This year, now the teams have a little bit more input. I'm glad the Blazers, were creative with it as opposed to just going with the boring color schemes.
Yeah, the Celtics had a grid that kind of confused me. Can't keep talking about that game. I mean, I can't wait for Friday. I love the NBA Cup. Can't wait for more. And we will see
Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time. Don't ever get it twisted.